The Data Breach Register serves as a centralized database where organizations are required to report incidents involving the unauthorized access, disclosure, or loss of personal information. Why organizations need a data breach register? Mandatory reporting. Organizations must promptly notify the Nigeria Data Protection Commission and affected individuals in the event of a data breach. This ensures swift action to mitigate risks and safeguard personal information. Detailed records. The register maintains detailed records of reported breaches, including the nature of the incident, the type of data compromised, and the remedial actions taken by the organization. Compliance and enforcement. Non-compliance with data breach reporting requirements can result in significant penalties and reputation damage for organizations. The register helps enforce regulatory standards and promotes a culture of data protection. Here is a step-by-step guide on how to use the data breach documentation register. About the organization. Fill the name of the organization. Fill the registration number issued by the Corporate Affairs Commission. Fill the location where the organization is physically situated or conducts its operations. Fill the official email address of the organization. From the list below, pick the most appropriate based on the nature of your core business activity. Data Protection Officer. Fill the name of the designated Data Protection Officer. Fill the email address of the Data Protection Officer. Fill the phone number of the Data Protection Officer. Fill the Data Protection Officer's acquired data protection privacy certifications. Details of data breach. A unique number that indicates where in the register a data breach is reported and documented. A unique identification number or code assigned to each documented data breach. Specify the exact date and time the data breach occurred if known. Specify the exact date and time the data breach was discovered. Provide the number of data subjects affected. If the number is not known, give an approximate number. Description of breach. Explain the process by which a security breach resulted in the unintentional or deliberate loss, alteration, disclosure, or access to personal data. Measures taken or to be taken. Did you inform all individuals affected? Indicate yes or no. List other regulators informed. When did you first notify the NDPC of the data breach? If yes, indicate the date and time. Remedial action. Kindly state the remedial action taken. To place an order, kindly visit dataprotectionacademy.com NG store or call 0816 82444.
Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Welcome to our cybersecurity training session, which will give insights on how CISOs can be more effective. Today's training will delve into helping CISOs understand how to draft cybersecurity policies, develop cybersecurity training policies, identify end-of-life applications, and maintain up-to-date asset inventory in terms of the hardware and software you use. This training is going to be a 6-month program that will give insight on how CISOs can be well equipped. So today we are delving into module 1. At the end of each module, we'll take quizzes just to evaluate your knowledge. And also templates will be shared so that you can use those templates to be able to assist your organization comply with the CBN risk-based cybersecurity framework. My name is Daniel Uba, and I'll be your host in taking you through this course. And feel free to drop your comments. And at some point, there will be a WhatsApp group that will be shared strictly for CISOs to be well informed. So please, if you have questions, drop it at the comment section and we'll attend to those questions. So let's get started. So our course outline for today will include understanding cyber security. There are so many concepts as it relates to cybersecurity. So we'll try to break it down in a way and manner that is well understood by all participants. Also, we'll look at the cybersecurity policy. I will share with you a draft cybersecurity policy, which will also be shared with all participants that have really engaged us to be able to assist you draft a cybersecurity policy. As you are aware, a cybersecurity policy is a requirement for you to be compliant with the CBN framework. So we are giving you the templates, you understand, so that you can be able to do what we call copy and paste, and you have your cybersecurity policy handy. So we'll delve into that practical aspect. Also, we'll look at the cybersecurity training policy because it's also another policy that is required by CBN. You understand? CBN will come over to do their oversight function. And when they come over, these are the things they'll be looking out for. Where is your cybersecurity policy? Where is your cybersecurity training policy? So this training will give you an insight to be able to do all these things. So you don't have to stress yourself. This is your one-stop shop in getting cybersecurity related information. Also, we look at the end of life applications. One of the key things CBN is also going to look at is for institutions, the OFIs that are still using applications that are obsolete. That is the end of life applications. So I will show you how you can know if your application is end of life and how you can document it. So those templates will also be shared. Then we'll also look at a brief summary of the CBN risk-based assessment template that we all did and submitted by March 31st. You see, submitting that report was just phase one. That you submitted that report doesn't mean that you are fully compliant with what CBN wants you to do. It is this course that will give you an insight on everything. So you submitted your report, fine. You meet up with the 31st deadline, fine and good. But that is not enough. They will come over for oversight function. And this is where you need to understand that implementing these things will give you that security, because you don't want anybody to come over to your institution and find you wanting. So this course is going to give you an insight on everything you will do. At the end of the day, we'll take quiz just to be sure that yes, what we've explained is well understood. You can always drop your questions at any point in time and we'll attend to those questions. So what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity simply means protecting your computer systems, your network, your digital files from digital attack. And cybersecurity is built on three foundations. We have confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So for you to be cybersecurity compliant, you have to ensure that your digital assets are available. That means your website, your mobile app are available for people to use 24 hours, 7 days a week. So you don't experience denial of service attack or any kind of attack that will bring down your application. So that's the availability aspect, that your application is running 24 hours, 7 days a week. The next thing is confidentiality, which simply means that the data that you have in your database can only be accessed by those who have the appropriate access rights and controls. Then integrity simply means that your database cannot be altered. You understand? For example, if someone hack into your database and alter someone's account details, then there's no integrity. So there are different types of cyber threats that OFIs will experience. No matter how sophisticated your network is, these are the common cyber threats you should be vigilant and then try to safeguard your network and systems from. One is the zero-day exploit. Now, attacks that target vulnerabilities in software or hardware that are yet to be known by a developer or vendor can be called a zero-day exploit. So we all use Android, iOS. Take for instance, the most recent version of Android is out. You've you are using it, but something is missing in terms of the patches and the updates. And people who are versatile in cybersecurity understand that and takes that and exploit it. That is what we call a zero-day exploit, because it is not even known by the vendor, it is not known by the hardware manufacturer, and because that vulnerability exists, people take advantage of it. So over a period of time, it's always good you conduct vulnerability and vulnerability and penetration tests on your applications. It's called VAPT, so that you can be able to know if there's anything that can be exploited and that can compromise your network or infrastructure. So zero-day exploit, you have to be vigilant as regards that. Then we have social engineering. Social engineering simply means manipulating individuals into divulging confidential information or performing actions that compromise security. So, take for instance, you are on LinkedIn, someone can just shout you, oh, we are former colleagues, and from there can gain information about you that can be used against you or the company you work for. So, you have to be vigilant as regards social engineering. Then there is also what we call the insider threats. Now, these risks are posed by individuals who misuse their access to systems or data within an organization. Your core employee can be an insider threat, and insider threats can be devastating because it can be as a result of the negligence of a co-worker that the organization is even breached or attacked. And CBN is trying to make sure that every OFI put in place controls to mitigate all these potential cyber threats. Then we have man in the middle attack, which means interception of communication between two parties. So when you have an application, there's data on transit, there's data at rest. In between, somebody can eavesdrop on that communication, most especially when you don't use HTTPS, right? If you are using HTTP, it's easier for a man in the middle attack to take place. So just as I said, it's a practical training, so we'll delve into all these things, but we have to build the foundation, assuming that you don't have a prior knowledge. Then we have denial of service attack, which attempts to disrupt normal functioning of a system by flooding it with so much traffic. Take, for instance, your web application is seeing visitors of, say, 100 to 200 per day. A denial of service attack may just come in with about 5 million people trying to access your site so that it is brought down and they take advantage of it. Then we have phishing, which are deceptive attempts to trick users to reveal sensitive information such as password and financial details. This is more prone to customers of OFIs, you understand? So they are prone to phishing attack. And we have malware, which are virus, trojans, or worms, and most likely ransomware that can compromise your IT infrastructure. So we now move over to the next, which is cybersecurity policy. So at this point, I won't explain cybersecurity policy, but I will show you how to draft a cybersecurity policy. And just as I promised, the templates will be made available. So now, this is a sample cybersecurity policy. I believe it's visible at your end. Good. So now, every institution that CBN supervise must have a cybersecurity policy. And these are the rule of thumb. When you are drafting a cybersecurity policy, you can decide to go either a simple cybersecurity policy, which is the best, or you want to do a bulky cybersecurity policy that will have like 20 to 40 pages. But what you should understand is how many people will settle down to read a 20 to 30 page document. So to me, I feel that you should make your cybersecurity policy very simple so anybody can understand. So take for instance, this is a bank, right? So first of all, you have to give an introduction. So the bank recognizes the importance of cybersecurity in safeguarding our systems, data, and assets against cyber threats. So the policy outlines the principles, procedures, and responsibilities for maintaining a secure banking environment. That introduction is well informed. So any person reading this policy document understands the aim of this document. So we move down to the purpose. Now, under the purpose, simple. The purpose of this policy is to establish guidelines and standards for protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information assets. Remember, I told you that cybersecurity is built on three foundations: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And you've carefully stated this under the purpose section. Then we'll move over to the scope. Now, this policy applies to all employees, contractors, third-party vendors who have access to the bank systems, network, or data. So take, for instance, it's a finance company. So you don't need to use the word bank systems, right? You can indicate the name of your organization. But being the fact that this is like a generic template that is easy to implement, when you get yours, you will also be able to edit it to suit your need, right? So we'll go over to compliance. The bank will comply. In the case of a finance company, it's simple. The finance company will comply. But if it's a bank, like a mortgage bank, a microfinance bank, a commercial bank, you just say the bank. The bank will comply with all applicable laws, regulations, and industry standards related to cybersecurity. As you are aware, there are many standards related to cybersecurity. You have the ISMS, you have the data protection that has some affiliation with cybersecurity. So, in order for you not to be making mistake, you just put industry standards, because over a period of time, more regulations will emerge as relating to cybersecurity. So just make it a broad term, industry standards, right? Then we'll move over to the risk management. Now, the bank will conduct regular risk assessment to identify and prioritize cybersecurity risk, because you need to be able to show CBN that you are taking action and you are taking responsibility. So risk mitigation measures will be implemented according to the risk assessment findings. Then we'll move over to access control. Access to the bank systems and data will be granted based on the principle of least privilege. Now, the principle of least privilege simply means that whatever assets I'm assessing is based on my job role. So if I don't have need to know, I won't be granted access. That's what the principle of least privilege means in cybersecurity. So we now move over to multi-factor authentication, which will help protect data. So what you are telling CBN is that you will implement multi-factor authentication. And what is multi-factor authentication? Use of biometrics, use of OTP, or any other platform that gives a second level control in terms of user access. So that's what multi-factor authentication means. And you have your username and password, which is just one control. When you now add OTP, you add biometrics. That gives us multi-factor authentication. Then we'll also talk about data protection. Data classification standards will be established. Ideally, every OFI should have classified their data, you understand, at this point in time. So you have to also let them know that you've done that. Then incident response. The bank will maintain an incident response plan to effectively respond to cybersecurity incidents. So you need to have this under the cybersecurity policy. Then security awareness training. All employees will receive cybersecurity training to raise awareness of common threats and best practices. Phishing simulations will be conducted periodically to educate employees about social engineering risk. Then vendor management, because you need to also be sure that every third-party vendor that access your system also takes into cognizance those security protocols you adhere to. Take, for instance, you use a payment gateway to facilitate transactions. Your customers are not aware of the payment gateway you use. What they know is your bank. So if that payment gateway is compromised, it's going to affect not just you, the employee, it will affect the customers. It will also affect the institution itself. So you have to monitor your third-party vendors, and you have to let CBN know that you do that under the cybersecurity policy. So third-party vendors and service providers will be assessed for their cybersecurity posture. Security requirements will be included in vendor contracts and agreements. So you need to review your third-party vendor contract. Is there clauses that talk about cybersecurity? So that is something you have to also do. Then monitoring and audit. You also need to let them know that you monitor your systems and network. Ideally, you should have a SOC center, right? So your policy review and update. The cybersecurity policy will be reviewed annually and updated. So you can decide to review it anytime. It mustn't be annual, but making it annual will give you a timeline at least that, okay, I have to review this every year. But it doesn't mean that you must wait for 1 year to review your policy. If there are major changes, you can also review. But to be on the safe side, just state it annually so that if they come in 2024 for audit, they see something has been done. When they come 2025, they expect something different, right? Rather than making it every quarter, which you may not be able to keep pace with. Then enforcement and consequences. So violations of this policy may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment or legal action. Conclusion, you just make a little reference. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. Adherence to this policy is essential to maintain a secure banking environment. So you get approval from your top management, you get the date of approval and it's signed. So this is a very simple cybersecurity policy that any OFI can simply implement. You don't need to make your policy too bulky. So at this point, I will give room for questions so that we can be able to attend to those feedback before we move to the next one, which is the cybersecurity training policy. So if you have questions, you can drop them on the chat box so that we can address those questions. So we're going to give room for questions, 2 to 3 minutes for questions, please. Drop it on the chat box. Meanwhile, you can also join the WhatsApp group for up-to-date information as relating to cybersecurity compliance. And if you are interested in building your knowledge uh, as regards cybersecurity, you should be on the WhatsApp group. So please drop your questions. Is it well understood? For reference purpose, every participant, most especially companies that have engaged Flowlease, will get this template. So all you need to do is add your logo, edit it to suit what you want. But that cybersecurity policy that was shared is enough to meet up with CBN requirements. So please, your questions so that I can. Okay, someone is saying, is it possible we get the slides for this training? For companies that have engaged us, of course, you will get the slides, yes. But those that have not engaged us, we don't really have a contact person to send it to, so it may be difficult. But those that have engaged Flowlease, we have your email, we have your WhatsApp details, so we are going to push not just the slide, but also the templates. Please, the questions should still keep coming so that we can address those questions before we move on to the next one. Is the cybersecurity policy understood? Okay, someone is saying, is it compulsory for a certified CISO? Now, what you should know about the CISO job role is that you must appoint a CISO. Now, the CISO may not be certified at appointment, but between his appointment down to 3 years' time, he must get a CISSP certification. It's a must. It's in the guideline by CBN. So please, from the date of appointment. So that is why it's always good that when you are appointed, you are given an appointment letter. So if CBN come, they will say, okay, why are you not certified? You cannot tell them, I was just recently appointed. You get it so that you don't have issues. So once you are appointed, try to get uh, an appointment later. Don't say because I'm working in IT and I was moved to the CISO role, I don't need an appointment later. These are things that CBN will ask when they come for their oversight function. Always get an appointment later. So please, if you want to be a CISO and you want to stay on that job role, you should ask your organization to sponsor you for the CISSP certification because by law, you can't be a CISO after 3 years without having that certification so that you don't have issues with the regulatory body. So keep the questions coming. Okay, if you want to engage our services, you can reach out to us. I will drop our WhatsApp number so that you can reach out to us, and our email. So you can reach out to us for further conversation on this issue. So we are going to move to the next policy, which is cybersecurity training policy. Now, when you have your cybersecurity policy, it is different from your cybersecurity training policy because CBN wants banks, OFIs to be able to ensure that all employees, all third party vendors, and any person that has a business to do with any of these institutions understand cybersecurity. Because the weakest link that leads to any of the ransomware attack or social engineering attack or denial of service attack is lack of knowledge. You see a link and you click on it. So you must have a cybersecurity training policy. It's a must. And this template will be shared with all our clients and all those who have one way or the other had business to do with Flowlease. You understand? Because you've not engaged us, we don't have your email, you don't have your phone number to be able to send these templates to you. But for those that we have their details, we are sending these templates to you. So all you need to do is you put your logo to make it personalized to your brand. Then under the introduction, we've already made it so simple. So the bank recognizes the importance of maintaining a high level of cybersecurity to protect sensitive customer information, financial transactions, and corporate data. A crucial element in the bank cybersecurity strategy is to ensure that all staff are well trained and knowledgeable about cyber threats and best practices. This policy outlines the bank approach to cybersecurity training for all employees. So you've told CBN that you understand why you are doing this. So you now move over to the training objective because your cybersecurity training policy should have training objective. What are your objectives? The first is to increase awareness of cyber threats, including phishing, malware, social engineering, and other cyber attacks. And the second is to educate employees on the importance of maintaining strong password, secure logins, and data protection. You can decide to add other objectives, but this template is 90% complete. All you need to do is put your logo, and if you want to edit it with any other of your branding, you are free to do it. So the next thing is the training requirements. So all employees, including full-time, part-time, contractors, and third-party vendors must undergo mandatory cybersecurity training upon joining the bank and quarterly thereafter. So what you are saying is that before any person is fully employed, the person has to go through this course, which is what CBN wants, right? They want you to show and demonstrate that yes, there is adequate awareness as it relates to cybersecurity. So the training program will cover various topics, including but not limited to recognizing phishing attack and social engineering tactics, password security and management, data protection and encryption, mobile device security, physical security measures, compliance with regulatory requirement, the Data Protection Act, PCI DSS, ISO 2701. So PCI DSS is the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. So you should be able to sensitize your employees on all these things. Then incident response procedures. So department heads are responsible for ensuring that their team members complete the required training within the specified time frame. New employees must complete the initial training within 2 weeks of employment. Employees may be subject to disciplinary action, which may include termination if they fail to complete the necessary training within the time frame stipulated. So the training delivery, because you have to tell CBN how you intend to deliver this training. You can decide to use online courses that are recorded. You can decide to use workshops. You can decide to do seminars or any other appropriate method that you feel works for you. But you have to tell them your training delivery model. Then the training content will be regularly updated to reflect emerging threats because you can't use one training content over a long period of time. You have to keep updating it and it has to reflect in your training policy. So employees will have access to resources and materials related to cybersecurity for ongoing reference and learning. Probably they will have an LMS, that is a learning management system or solution that they will be logging in to be able to keep on learning. So, under governance and responsibility, the board of directors and senior management are ultimately responsible for overseeing the bank's cybersecurity training policy and ensuring adequate resources for its implementation. The CISO or equivalent designated individual will be responsible for developing, implementing, and maintaining the bank cybersecurity program. So employee training and awareness. All employees will undergo regular cybersecurity awareness training to increase their understanding on cybersecurity. So we move on to third-party vendor management. You also talk about making sure that your third party will go through the same training so that you have a secured ecosystem. Then training assessment and evaluation. So following the completion of each training sessions, employee will be required to pass an assessment to gauge their understanding of the material. The result of this assessment will be used to identify areas of improvement. So what you should do is that after trainings, all those assessments, you can file it. So when CBN come, you can show them, this is part of our due diligence. People go through training, and these are the assessments over a period of time. That will show some form of trust between you and your regulator. So managers will monitor the progress of their team members and provide necessary support. So compliance and enforcement. Non-compliance with the policy may result to disciplinary actions, including but not limited to verbal or written warning, suspension, termination of employment, or legal action. So the HR department, that is the human resource department, will oversee compliance with the policy and address any concern or violation. So this is a very simple, straightforward cybersecurity training policy. All you need is add your logo and when necessary, sign and put date. But this is something you should also look at. As a CISO, getting training topic may be difficult because you are the one who will be doing the in-house training, right? So we've also added some training topics and possible content. So we have introduction to cybersecurity. Under that, we have overview of cybersecurity fundamentals, including key concepts, terminology, importance of cybersecurity in today's digital world, introduction to cyber threat and common cybersecurity vulnerabilities. We also have cybersecurity principles and framework. You understand? Information security management, network security, operating system security, web security, cloud security, mobile security. So as a CISO, you don't need to stress yourself looking for topics to train your team members on. You already have topics that when you go to the internet, you can get content relating to this. So any question as regards the cybersecurity training policy, this will be shared. Just as I said, it is 90% complete. You add your logo and sign and put date. So, well, it's very easy to implement. So you won't have issues. So if you have any question as relates to the policy I just shared, please drop the questions so that we can attend to those questions. Yes, you will get materials for the training, most especially when you are our existing client, because we already have your email and number, so we can easily push it to you. But if you are not an existing client and you wish to join, you can also join the WhatsApp group, you understand, and you can also follow us on social media to get more information. But join the WhatsApp group is a faster means to communicate with us. Yes. So more questions, please. More questions, more questions. For everyone who has made out time to be on this training, we really appreciate you. It takes a whole lot after a long holiday to come for such virtual sessions. We really appreciate your presence. So keep the questions coming in. The templates will be shared. So you don't need to stress yourself. How do I do cybersecurity policy? How do I do cybersecurity training policy? All these things have already been done. And this course is a 6-month course. You understand? At the end of the 6 months, you would have learned everything you need to know to be effective as a CISO. You understand? So that you can be well positioned to be able to meet up with those requirements from CBN. So the policy is a very voluminous policy in terms of implementation, but we are going to break it into modules. So what we are doing today is we are going to send template on cybersecurity policy, template on cybersecurity training policy. So you have to correct, edit it to suit your need before the next policy comes. So every fortnight, you'll be getting policies till we have wrapped up this program, you understand? Okay, for OFIs that don't have internet interaction, well, at this stage, you should have access to the internet. Uh, But if you don't have access to the internet, it's a problem. So the training will be occurring every 2 weeks, you understand, for a period of 6 months, just to make sure that every CISO is well equipped, you understand. And you'll be getting notifications when these trainings are coming up. After each training, there will be templates that will be shared. So you work on those templates before the next training so that within a period of 6 months, your OFI will be positioned to meet up with cybersecurity requirements as stipulated in the guideline. Okay. Any question? We are moving to something more technical, which is the end of life application. So if you have any question, you can drop it before we move up to that technical aspect. Okay, so let me explain what. Yes, the training is free. You didn't pay to join this training. You understand it's free. So let me explain what end of life application is. Then we'll go to the technical aspect and how you can document it. Now, end of life applications refer to software applications that have reached the end of the development and support. Now, take for example, you have Android, you have iOS. All these applications have versions. At some point, the developer will retire some of these versions. And what happens? Those ones that have been retired will no more receive updates. So if the developer ceases to update the application, it means that there will be no bug fixes, it means there will be no security patches, and there will be no future enhancement to that application. So it will not be wise for you to keep using that application because it will put your institution at risk. Another thing again you need to look at is compatibility issue. As software and hardware evolve, applications and hardware that are end of life may not be compatible with the most recent applications. So this will hinder software development. Then you also have what we call data migration. If the end of life application is handling critical data, it is wise for organizations to make provisions for alternative before this application backup. Because if an application backup, you may find it difficult to export data. So, in simple terms, someone is asking, can we use this template to write our cybersecurity policy? Of course, once you receive the template, you can edit it to suit your need. That's it. It's faster for you to implement. So, just as I was saying, end of life applications simply means applications that are no longer supported by the vendor, which will put users of such applications at risk. So I'm going to show you a site now that every CISO should have handy. I will advise you bookmark this site because it's going to show you how to know if an application is end of life and how to document it. So as a CISO, you should know end of life.date. This site has the most recent update of any application and the versions that are obsolete and still in use. So I'm going to take the most common, which is Windows, for example. Windows is what every person makes use of in terms of working on the desktop, laptop, and we also have mobile devices that are powered by Windows. So the most recent Windows, you can see it's 11.23H2, right? It was released 5 months ago. So now if you scroll to the bottom, you're going to see other versions of Windows that are end of life. Most of the time, those ones you see highlighted on red. For example, this one ended 10 months ago. The one highlighted on red. 11.21H2 ends in 6 months. So you need to be able to look at this database and see if your company is running applications that are no longer supported by the vendor. So let's look at Microsoft Office, for example, which is also another common software. But you can check any software. Office 365 is still having support. It was released 8 years ago, right? But it's still the most recent version. 2021 is still also in use, but it's going to end in 2 years and 6 months. So in 2 years and 6 months, if you are using 2021 Office, it means you are running an end of life application. Then 2019 ended 6 months ago, but is still receiving security support, which will end up 14th of October 2025. Then 2016 ended 3 years and 6 months ago, but the updates in terms of the security will end in a year and 6 months. But you have 2013, you understand that is already obsolete, and the support ended a year ago, 11th of April, precisely a year ago, right? So you also have 2011, you also have 2010. So if you are running this kind of applications, you are going to put your system at risk. So you can check any application on this database to see if you are running applications that are not supported by the manufacturer or vendor, so you don't put your business at risk. The risk of using such application is that they are more vulnerable to cyber threat and cyber attack, right? So let's look at Android iOS before we move on, because I need to also explain how you document all these things. So the most recent Android is 14, right? It was released 6 months ago. We have 13, we have 12.1, we have 12. Now we have 11, which ended 2 months and 6 days ago. So what it simply means is that if you are running some of these obsolete applications, you may be more vulnerable to risk. So any question as regards this, we have to go to the practical aspect that talks about how you document this end of life application. So now you are supposed to have a record database of all your applications. We are coming to that aspect. But let us look at the one that talks about end of life applications. Now we understand what end of life applications are. So take for instance, CBN comes in and they ask you, what are the end of life applications you are using? If you are not using anyone, you tell them and you prove to them that all our applications are the most recent. But if you are using anyone, you also need to let them know and educate them on what you intend to do in terms of getting it updated or migrating the data. Now, you put the application name. If it's a Windows application, you put the application name, you put the version, right? The end of life dates. And if the application is in use, you indicate yes or no. So you also need to have this database handy, right? So when you are done, for each of the application, you have to put this additional notes. The application name, the version, the end of life date, reason for end of life. You put a brief explanation. The impact assessment, here you describe the potential impact of retiring the application on users, systems, and your business process. Then what are your migration plan? You also need to outline the plan for migrating users' data. Then the timeline, you also need to specify the timeline for the migration process. Then the individuals that will take responsibility, the CISO, the data protection officer, the information security steering committee, the board of directors, you identify their responsibilities. Then dependencies, identify any dependencies that may affect the migration process. Take for instance, you are migrating a database. If other data also depend on it, you also need to take that into cognizance. Then your communication plan. How will stakeholders be informed about this retirement process? Most times when Microsoft is trying to retire any of the application, they communicate it. You understand? So you also need to communicate it to interested parties, both internally and externally, right? Customers, employees, third-party vendors also need to know. Then your archival plan, your support and maintenance plan. You have to specify the level of support and maintenance that will be provided for the application during the transition period. Then documentation, you provide links to relevant documentation, user guide, FAQ, then contact during the migration process, how they can reach out to your technical team, the project manager, the technical lead, stakeholders. So this document should be handy for every OFI, right? You can decide to digitalize it. You can decide to keep it as a manual record. But the most important thing is that you have an up-to-date inventory of all your end-of-life applications. Any question at this point, please? Just as I promised, all these templates will be shared. Okay, someone is asking, how can we know or detect if an application is outdated? I explained it. I also showed you a site, right, that you can visit, end-of-life.date, right? That will give you informed decisions as regards end-of-life applications. So it's end-of-life.date. And you must have this record database so that when CBN comes in, you don't need to start explaining. You just show them, these are the applications we use that are end-of-life, and these are transition period. For you to get this template, you must be an existing client of Flowless. If you want to engage us, you are free to reach out to our contact center. I'll drop the email and the WhatsApp number so that we can take it up from there. And don't forget, the compliance of submitting your report is just one phase of the compliance process. When CBN comes, these are the things that we are going to be looking at for. So someone is asking end of life for hardware. I told you earlier that this is a 6 months transition course. So we are breaking it down. So we are focusing on software today. The next time we'll meet, we'll be talking about information security, setting up the information security steering committee, and every other key issues. And we'll also share 2 templates with you. So when we get to that aspect of end of life for hardware, we'll also explain. So that is it. So it's a 6 month course, you understand? So please follow us through. You can subscribe to our channel so you get notifications once we have such training so that you don't miss out. The training will be on our YouTube page. You can always revisit it, right? So any question before we move on? So I would like to talk about the CBN report we just submitted. Of course, you are going to have a copy of the end of life template. And yes, we can write to your bank, but you need to reach out to us so we can do that, right? Please, as a CISO, you have to inform your organization that the law says that for you to be in their payroll after 3 years of appointment, you must be certified. And the certification cost is very expensive. So they have to sponsor you. You understand? So you have to make that known to them. The cost is very expensive. You understand? And as a staff, you don't expect to use your own personal funds to run a CISSP certification. Your bank have to sponsor you. So you have to make that known to them. You understand? So keep your questions coming so that we can address those things. Keep your questions coming, please. We're supposed to finish this training by 11, but we're going to extend it because we are yet to round up on some key areas. We're going to extend it by 10 minutes, please. So now I'm sharing a new screen. I think everybody should be conversant with this, right? When we're filling the Microsoft Excel template that CBN gave out for the self-assessment audit, we would have noticed that we had things like this displayed, right? And the maturity results. Um, so you need to understand what this actually means, right? You need to understand what this actually means so that you can be able to advise your management. And you would have seen things like maturity results, inherent risk. What do we want to achieve with this? So I will explain this to you because if you had filled this properly, you would have known your exposure to cybersecurity. So when you have the inherent risk result, which is this part, the inherent risk result, this is what you should be looking at for. What is the bank composite inherent risk result? So if you have lists as your inherent risk, it means that your institution generally has limited use of technology. In simple terms, you have not adopted technology fully. You have very few computers, you don't have any mobile application on Play Store, and your employees are not too tech savvy in terms of use of robust application. That is what it simply means. It doesn't mean that your bank is not doing well or not. It simply means you are yet to fully adopt technology to its full potential. But if you have minima, it means that your institution, to some extent, have picked up with technology, but it is not your core focus, but you are using technology to some extent, and you have third-party vendors you are working with, maybe NIBS, InterSwitch, you get it. So if you had filled this properly, you would have seen things like this. So what a minimal inherent risk means is that the institution has started using technology, but still at that elementary stage. There are third parties vendor they work with, and then they've been integrated on NIPS. So that's what the minimum means. Then if you have moderate, it simply means that the institution outsource critical IT infrastructure. So that means there's some level of risk between you and your third parties, and you've adopted technology better than the minimal exposed institution. Then, for significant inherent risks, it means that you have started using complex technology. You have Play Store. On Play Store, your application is there. You on iOS store, you have an application. It means you are using technology. You are versatile in use of technology. Most likely, you have biometrics integrated on your application. You understand? So you have third party. You make use of payment gateway. You have POS. When you have that significant, then the most inherent risk means you are fully exposed to technology, and you outsource, you have third party vendors, you have you haven't tried to integrate AI into your business process. You allow customers open account online digitally. So that's when you have the most inherent risk. So it doesn't mean anything other than what I just explained. It just gives CBN an overview of how to look at your financial institutions in terms of technology adoption. And in summary, an organization that is least will have less worry in terms of cyber threats, but that which is significant or most inherent will have more concerns as regards cybersecurity threats. So the other aspect you should also look at for is your maturity result, because this gives CBN an insight on what you do and the technology you've rolled out to your potential customers and existing customers. So take for instance, when you have baseline, it means that the institution is characterized by making sure that they meet up with the minimum expectations as far as the guideline is. So when you have baseline, it means that your maturity level is all those minimum things the CBN wants you to implement, you have met them. Evolving means that you are risk driven and you've started adopting new technology, and you are trying to make use of new systems to facilitate customer acquisition. For example, allowing customers to open account online. Then intermediate is characterized by detailed formal processes. That means you have most likely all the policies, information security policies, access control policies, risk management policies, anti-money laundering has been integrated with your core banking application. So if any person is making any account opening, it can easily raise alert or notification if the person is politically exposed or not. Then the advance means that you have gone far, far beyond in terms of adopting technology, putting in place accountability. And when you have innovative, it means you've started bringing digitalization to your core banking application in terms of driving account opening, customer acquisition, and predictive technology. You understand, and also be able to customize account opening packages to resonate with different market segments. So that's what you should understand about what you just did. And so you don't say CBN wants to penalize you. No, they just want to be able to know, okay, in terms of the OFIs, what is the technology adoption? who are those that are exposed to risk. And if you've done that properly, you would have noticed that all these things I said, you align with it. So any question before we proceed? We're trying to wrap up today's training. We're trying to wrap up. If you have questions. Okay, someone is saying, can a CCNA certified also be a CISO? Yes, you can be appointed, but you don't have the minimum certification to hold that job after a period of 3 years. You have to work with the law. The law says you must have minimum of CISSP. So they can appoint you, but after 3 years, you have to show CBN that you have what it takes, which is the CISSP certification. CISSP is a foreign certification. You can go through the training, and after which you take your exams. The information is on the internet if you want to have more details about it. Yeah. So let's wrap up. We'll go to the asset inventory. I'll just give an explanation. After that, we can call it a successful session. Um, But I want you to drop your feedback as regards to this training. Was it, did it meet your expectations? Were you well informed? Are you well positioned to carry out the role as a CISO? So the hardware and software asset inventory is something you should also have. You should have a full documentation of all the assets you use in terms of hardware and software. So for your hardware, you have to put the asset name. If it's a laptop, if it's an IP camera, if it's a printer, whatever, you must have a full detailed inventory. You describe it, you put the model, the manufacturer, the serial number, the internal ID. If it has a MAC ID or IP address, you indicate it. Where is it physically located? The date you purchase it. Is it on warranty? Who is the asset owner and who is the risk owner? So most likely in every of your assets, the risk owner will be the CISO, right? For emphasis sake, because he's the one in charge of maintenance and reporting any vulnerability. So this is an inventory template for hardware. So it will be shared with you. So it's advisable you document all your hardware and all your software. You understand? So that when CBN comes and asks you what software do you use, you can easily show them your inventory. And if they ask you what hardware do you use, you can easily show them your inventory. So let's look at the software inventory. So for the software inventory, you have the software product name, which can be Microsoft Office. Type, you indicate the type. Um, you describe it, you put the version, you put the developer, you put the license key and the license type, the date purchase, and any other thing you want to add up. So both templates will be shared with you. So in summary, what we've been able to achieve today is to get participants to understand the foundation of cybersecurity. We talked about the confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We also talked about the cybersecurity policy and why you should have it, and templates will be shared. Just be patient. By Monday, everybody would have received their template. Over the weekend, we'll be sending it. So you don't need to start calling. If we have your details, you'll get those templates between now and Monday. Then we also talked about the end of life applications and how to document it. So you have to have that record database. When CBN come, they will ask, and all you need to do is present it to them. So that is the end of life application. We also shared with you the site you can use to be able to know if you are using end of life application or not. Now we also talked about how to keep an inventory of your hardware and software. So with that being said, and we're about hitting the 1 hour mark, I can confidently say that module 1 is done. But before we go, we have to go for a quiz. And that quiz is going to expose us if we've learned or not. So the first question is, what is the primary objective of a cybersecurity policy? Is it option A, B, C, or D? What is the primary objective of a cybersecurity policy? You can drop the options on the chat box. Option C. So let's see if C is the most appropriate. Oh, congratulations, C is correct. So we'll move on to the next one. What is the purpose of a cybersecurity training within an organization? What is the purpose of cybersecurity training within an organization? Is the option A, B, C, or D? I'm still seeing option C. I'm still seeing option C. Uh, I'm seeing B. So let's see. Is B to raise awareness about common cyber threat and best practices? So what does end of life application mean? Is it option A, B, C, or D? Okay, so is C, the developer or vendor will no longer provide updates or support for the application. So it's C that is most appropriate. So which of the following is not a potential consequence of using an end of life application? Okay. Okay. Is C, enhanced technical support. And finally, an institution with very limited use of technology is expected to have a composite inherent risk result of, is it A, B, C, or D? An institution with very limited use of technology is expected to have a composite inherent risk result of. Okay. Okay. The answer is D, list. So I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone who have been with us since 10 a.m. till now. And I also want you to join the WhatsApp group so that you keep informed and get latest updates as regards the cybersecurity training. So this training will be occurring every fortnight. This training will be occurring every fortnight so that it will be occurring every fortnight so that you can keep pace with what we do. In wrapping up, we are going to also show a video that explains what you should be doing as far as protecting data.
Today's digital age, protecting sensitive data is more critical than ever before. But what happens when data breaches occur? The Data Breach Register serves as a centralized database where organizations are required to report incidents involving the unauthorized access, disclosure, or loss of personal information. Why organizations need a data breach register? Mandatory reporting. Organizations must promptly notify the Nigeria Data Protection Commission and affected individuals in the event of a data breach. This ensures swift action to mitigate risks and safeguard personal information. Detailed records. The register maintains detailed records of reported breaches, including the nature of the incident, the type of data compromised, and the remedial actions taken by the organization. Compliance and enforcement. Non-compliance with data breach reporting requirements can result in significant penalties and reputation damage for organizations. The register helps enforce regulatory standards and promotes a culture of data protection. Here is a step-by-step guide on how to use the Data Breach Documentation Register. About the organization. Fill the name of the organization. Fill the registration number issued by the Corporate Affairs Commission. Fill the location where the organization is physically situated or conducts its operations. Fill the official email address of the organization. From the list below, pick the most appropriate based on the nature of your core business activity. Data Protection Officer. Fill the name of the designated Data Protection Officer. Fill the email address of the Data Protection Officer. Fill the phone number of the Data Protection Officer. Fill the Data Protection Officer's acquired data protection privacy certifications. Details of data breach. A unique number that indicates where in the register a data breach is reported and documented. A unique identification number or code assigned to each documented data breach. Specify the exact date and time the data breach occurred if known. Specify the exact date and time the data breach was discovered. Provide the number of data subjects affected. If the number is not known, give an approximate number. Description of breach. Explain the process by which a security breach resulted in the unintentional or deliberate loss, alteration, disclosure, or access to personal data. Measures taken or to be taken. Did you inform all individuals affected? Indicate yes or no. List other regulators informed. When did you first notify the NDPC of the data breach? If yes, indicate the date and time. Remedial action. Kindly state the remedial action taken. To place an order, kindly visit dataprotectionacademy.com NG store or call 0816 82444.
So thank you everyone, and we really appreciate your time. Our contacts are there for you to reach out to us if you need further support, and we'll be there to support you. For those who have joined the group, the training slides will be populated on the group so you can start learning and be able to be positioned to be an effective Chief Information Security Officer. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.